Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Voidfall. Something a little bit different in this video. This is going to be a Etsy showcase. So there is an Etsy store that I co-own. And so we're just going to be showcasing the items that we've got available for Voidfall on that store. So there won't be any playthrough or anything like that. If you're not interested in that, that's fine. I'll see you in another video. If you want to get some details on these different items, there is, of course, a link in the description to the store itself. And then there are chapter markers for each different item where I just want to kind of showcase it in detail. And Voidfall in particular is of interest because we never intended to make an Etsy store, but we did it specifically because of Voidfall. When Voidfall was going through fulfillment after the crowdfunding campaign, I was reading through the rule book, and there were a couple things that I thought can be improved component-wise. So I asked my friend with a 3D printer to make me some pieces, and we were like, hey, these are pretty good. We could sell these. And it kind of spiraled out of control. So to be clear, Table for One is a solo joint, as you might imagine from the name. It's just me, just the narrator. Table for One is just me playing games. This Etsy store called BrainBucketGames is currently 3 of us. It's just a group of friends. I've got the best job in the group as far as I'm concerned. I just play games and figure out what can be improved component-wise. Friend number 2 has the 3D printers and runs them. And friend number 3 is actually a professional designer, industrial designer in the games and toys industry. So they do all the design work for the different pieces. And sort of the store philosophy real quick is we don't want to just churn out a bunch of plastic junk. We want to make stuff that's really premium. We want to make not just upgraded components from a cosmetic perspective, but also pieces that improve either setup or gameplay or storage or multiple wherever we can. So we want to enhance it however we can. And we also take into account, we put a lot of thought behind not just how it looks, but how it feels and how you can manipulate the pieces with your hand. So we try and make it to the best quality that we can. So that's our shtick, and I want to start showing you some of the pieces. Let's get to it. Okay, so the first things I want to talk to you about are tokens. And so I've got the Galactic box, so I've got the GameTrayz storage. So there's a number of replacement tokens in here. I'll go from one at a time, but they all do fit in the GameTrayz storage. I've got both of them here, so you can see. So I'll go ahead and open these up and kind of go through them, but I'll talk about each of the different pieces. And when I say that they all fit in the GameTrayz storage, I do want to be super clear about this. Everything, you just kind of drop it in and it's fine, with the exception of these installations. They are tight. You've got to be a little bit meaningful in putting them in there to get them to fit. So that's what it is, but they do fit. So first are these bounty and reclaim token replacements, and this is the piece that really set everything off. When you go to set up the game with the original components, which are cardboard, like so. All right, so these are all some bounty tokens. You're going to have 48 of these bounty tokens and 27 reclaim tokens. So first you need to separate them into 2 piles, and then you need to flip them all so they're face down. Then you need to shuffle them like this so that you don't flip any over and reveal them. So you can imagine I've got 48 of these, so now I've got a pile of them. And then you got to kind of pick them and randomly put them on the map where the map tells you the bounty tokens go. And the rest of them you put aside. You can put them in these common trays, but you've got to keep them all face down like this so that you don't reveal what's on the bottom, because they all have something different on the back. And by revealing any of them, it tells you your probability of getting something else. So you don't want to reveal what's out there. You want it to be a surprise. So that kind of seemed tedious, and it reminded me of Nemesis and the exploration tokens in that game. And I really didn't want to deal with that in this game. So what we have here are bounty tokens and reclaim tokens that are a little bit 3D on the top face. And then the back face is just black. They're all black and flat. So when you set up the game, you can just take these and easily throw them on the map wherever you need them. And then when the time comes and you land on a space where there's a bounty token and you earn it, instead you just put this back in the common supply, and then you draw one of these at random from a bag. So here we go. Here's a bag, right? So it's full of all the original cardboard bounty tokens. So you don't actually get rid of them. You keep them and you use them, but they're just in here. You pull one out, okay, this is the reward I get. You can keep that by your player mat, and then everything else is still in here. And that way, there's also no predetermination if you're playing a multiplayer game where you might have these common supplies spread out on the table. If you've got half of these tokens in here and half in here, it's sort of predetermined that if this one's closer to you, you're not going to get any of the rewards in there. Sort of a minor thing, but this way you can easily pass this bag back and forth, and everybody has an equal chance of getting any particular token. Now, if you just want the replacement tokens, those are available if you've got your own bag. If you don't have bags, we've got bags too, and they're customized. So these are microfiber bags, and they're hand printed with these custom bounty token logos and reclaim token logos. So single-sided, black on the back. So those are available too. And I'll show you in just a second here. There's a nice way to store these, whether you get these bags or have your own bags. If you've got the Galactic box, let me set this stuff aside and show you how you can store these in that box. All right, so when you're at this stage of putting the game away, right here underneath these safe haven tiles, there's a well. So you can actually take these bags and roll them up. There's fewer reclaim tokens, so you can fit those right there. And the bounty token bag, roll that one up as well. And this works, as long as you don't have a giant bag. But if you have these bags, it's fine. They'll go right there, and these tokens can sit on, or tiles can sit on top, and then there's enough space here for the other components when you pack it all away. And so that holds that, whereas all of the blanks that you actually put on the map are again in these trays here if you have the Galactic Edition with the GameTrayz. So again, the main goal there was just improving the setup time and the tedium of just mixing up those little pieces. It's much quicker to go this way, and I prefer it. And again, these are all a little bit 3D on the top face, which is kind of nice. From the tactile perspective, it's thick enough where it's easy to pick up off the table or off the map. So the next pieces I want to talk about are the guild and installation tokens. So these are all, just like the originals, double-sided. So one side is going to be flat. The other side is going to have a slight 3D effect. Not sure if you'll be able to catch it there, but it's got sort of a rim on one side. So it's very minimal. You can feel it with your fingers, but then the tokens will sit flat on the map tiles just fine. But again, they're thick enough, easy to pick up. Same thing for the installations. They're double-sided. So just like the originals, they all have sector defense on one side, and then the other side is either the shipyard or the starbase. There we go. And the problem with these in the originals was minimal, and I never ran into it personally, but a lot of people mentioned, specifically in higher player count games, 3-4 player games, depending on the galactic events you get, you start to run out, or maybe the technologies you get and what strategies players are approaching, you start to run out sometimes of these guild tokens or installation tokens. So if you don't have enough, these sets have more than the originals. So let me take a few more of these out here just so we can have a look at them. Bankers Guild. Oh, there's the scientists. There we go. And a sector defense too, just so you've got something to look at. And I've got the cardboard and metal versions as well. I bought the metal enamel tokens when I pre-ordered the game, so I've got both of those to compare to. So here's some cardboard and metal. There we go. Same thing here. Here's a cardboard and metal. Okay. So these 3D printed versions are slightly thicker than the metal, which are a decent amount thicker than the cardboard, just for reference. Let's see if I can hold a few of these up. So here's cardboard, here's metal, and here's 3D printed. I don't know that you can really see anything, but that's what they look like. And in terms of quantities, the guild tokens come with 55 tokens, whereas the cardboard or metal, there's 42. So you get 13 additional tokens. They are double-sided, so keep that in mind with the math here. But the maximum of each guild type you can have, in the originals, there's 14 Farmers Guilds max. We've got 19. There's 12 engineers guilds, and we've got 16, 12 miners guilds, we've got 16, 30 bankers guilds, and we've got 38, and 16 scientists guilds, and we've got 21. So that's a decent improvement. And similarly on the installations, again, they're all sector defense on the back, just like the originals. But the originals give you 25 with shipyards and 15 with star bases, whereas this set has 30 shipyards and 20 star bases. So 5 more of each. That should help you to avoid running out. Now, if running out of these tokens is not an issue for you, then you don't need it. This is not like a FOMO pitch. We don't want to do that to people. Personally, I rarely run out, if ever. So I typically use the metal tokens. I have them. I like them. There's nothing wrong with them. I don't need to replace them. But I am the sort of person where if I do run out, I'll get annoyed if I have to mix and match my metal and my cardboard. And I would want to have them all be uniform and probably switch over to the 3D tokens at that point. But that's just me. It's definitely not a need. And so that's the guild tokens. And here we go, the installation tokens. Let's get these out of here. Now, the other set of tokens that goes in these trays are the glory tokens. So we made not just glory tokens, but also these trays. And I'll talk about why in just a second, but these are standalone trays. So you can get either just the trays and use them with your cardboard tokens. You can get just replacement glory tokens, do whatever you want with them, or you can get both. You can get the 2 trays with enough replacement tokens all as one package, and it saves you a little bit of money if you do that. So with the glory tokens, we weren't really looking to make these, but people started requesting them, and it didn't really fit with our idea of matching or solving a problem. But the trays did. That's what did it for us. Let me take one of these trays out. First of all, the trays are snap fit lids. I take this off. There's a 3D printed glory tokens in there. They're sorted 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Each has its own little tray, and you can kind of reach in there and get just the ones that you want and put them back. So I'll take a closer look at those in a minute. But you take the lid, this nice glory logo on it, you snap it back on. I can hold it by the lid and shake it. I can hold it by the top upside down and shake it. These aren't coming out. So this lid or this tray fits right in here. But if you don't have if you have the retail version, you don't have these GameTrayz. I mean, you can store it this way, and that's great too. And you can just set one of these on either side of the table, and people can get the tokens that they need. So this one has 3D printed tokens in it. This one, as an example, has the cardboard tokens, and you can see those fit too as well. 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and it keeps them all together. And again, if you put the lid on, everything's going to be just fine right where it's supposed to be. So that's really handy. The problem that we wanted to solve when we decided to go down this route was when you have all these tokens just stored in this bin by themselves, it's fine for storage. But when you start to play the game and you go and you take out a 3 and you take out a 4 and then you need to put back a 2 and then you need to trade a 4 for a 5, this gets so mixed up and cluttered that it's just pretty soon a mess, and it's just a sea of different color glory tokens, and you end up having to dig for the one you want, and it's just a disaster by the end of the game. And that's kind of a pain. So in this way, whether you use the cardboard or the 3D printed tokens, everything stays nice and neat, and that's nice. So let's take a look at some of these tokens. So here's a 2. So the top side is a little bit 3D. It's kind of tough to tell because we put a ridge around the edge. It makes it easier to pick it up. And then the back side, they are double-sided. The back side is completely flat. But either way, it does sit flat. It is balanced in that way, so it's not going to teeter-totter on the table. So they're super easy to read, pretty close to the same font as the originals. Let me see if I can take out a couple of those as a demo. So the numbers are actually a little bit bigger. The contrast is a little bit greater. And I think it's a little bit easier to see, but we did maintain that same angle. If you're using the ship minis, you may have noticed that the arc on the bottom of the glory token fits around the ship base, and we did maintain that. So you can continue to use the minis if that's something that you want to do, and if you have them. So that's the glory tokens. I do really like these trays. I think they came out nice. Okay, I mentioned fleet tokens. Let's talk about those real quick. So we've got replacement fleet tokens. Here's some Corvettes. Now, if you have the retail version, these are going to be cardboard. I believe double layer cardboard, where it'll be a little picture of a Corvette and your fleet power cube will sit in there. If you have the galactic box, then you've got the minis, which, don't get me wrong, are super nice. It's part of the reason that I backed the game personally. The issue with the minis is you've got to assemble them as you need them, and it can be time consuming, even though they look cool. So it stands on the stand, and then you can put your cubes on the bottom of the stand. So that's how those work. If you do have the minis, I recommend storing them in their trays, partly assembled on the stand like this. It's just one less piece to do. So here's a corrupted Corvette for the Voidborn as well. So what our tokens do, these are player Corvettes. And again, you can hold your 3 fleet power with your cubes there. These are super simple to pick up and move around. You can take cubes on and off, not a big deal. Swap them, like they just work like you'd expect them to. And we have the same number of total Corvettes that come with the either retail or galactic box, but all of these Corvettes are player on one side and Voidborn on the other side. So that allows you more flexibility with your pieces, where this is always going to be a Voidborn Corvette or a corrupted Corvette. This will always be a player one. You can just grab any Corvette out of this pack and use it for what you need, which can allow you to have bigger fleets of either type, depending on what type of game you're playing. And of course, these fit they're all the same size cubes, but there you go. With the orange cubes, super easy to see what's going on. I think that looks really nice. And then we've done the same thing for the other fleet types as well. So we have destroyers and sentries. And then I thought this was really neat too. We have the dreadnoughts and the carriers. Now, each of those, when you have that tech, there's a basic and improved version. The basic version, you can only have 1 fleet power on each of those tokens. So these are the basic ones, and they only hold 1 fleet power. That's the only cube slot that they have. But when you get the improved version, they can hold 3. You can then flip these over, and it has 3 spaces for fleet power. So that way you can't make a mistake, and I kind of like the brighter color, and it matches the improved technology card color as well. So I think that's neat. Otherwise, it's just the same light gray as the other fleet types, including this, which is pretty close to this color. So pretty happy with how those turned out. I think that's neat. And so in this set of tokens, again, you'll get the same number of each fleet token that comes in the original game, whether it's the cardboard pieces or the minis. So that means there's 52 Corvettes in total. There are 12 each of destroyers, dreadnoughts, and sentries, and there are 10 carriers. So that's 98 pieces total in that set. And now I think let's take a look at what all this looks like on the map. Okay, so here's sort of an unusual setup, but just to demonstrate the pieces and how they look. So all of the 3D printed components on here that we've got in our store are the installations, the guilds, the fleet tokens, the bounty tokens, reclaim tokens, and the glory tokens. So you can see that even with these different fleet token types, everything fits pretty nicely on the hexes. They're easy enough to pick up, move around. This rift is like unusually packed, and there's really no issue there. If we wanted to invade it, we can move some of this stuff aside. They got to retreat, get out of the way as we move in a dreadnought and a couple destroyers. So that's super packed. Everything is just fine on there. I can even pack it in a little bit more. I wouldn't take that battle unless I was the Voidborn, but that's how it looks. So hopefully that gives you some idea of what all this stuff is about. So these are all the like in-game tokens, but there's a lot of other pieces too that have more to do with stuff off the map. So let me put this away and show you what that's about. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is player trays. And so these are the player trays that came in the Galactic box. And soon after they started arriving, people noticed a critical flaw with them. Although they can hold all of the player items, like, each player would need one of these to play the game. Usually people want to pick their color. And so you can be blue, green, yellow, or pink in this game. But good luck knowing which one is inside of here as it stands, because it's got this clear lid and then the resource dials are on the top. So it hides the player color that's in there. So you can't really tell until you've opened it up and double checked, okay, this is the blue one. And this is filled with everything that the game tells you to put in there. So the player colored focus cards, the influence dials, your 14 fleet power cubes, your turn order marker, home sector population die, the 3 civilization trackers, and then one of these on top, your resource dials on top, and that just covers everything up. So what we went ahead and did was we made some really cool looking lid replacements. So we made these. They look, I think, super nice, and we were selling these for quite a while, and I think people really liked them. So you just take this and get rid of your clear one and pop it on the existing tray. There we go. And it holds everything super well. I'm holding it just by the lid here, not by the bottom at all. And it holds on pretty good. And we also recommend, there's some other items that it's helpful to put in here. So at the start of the game, everybody needs a number 2 glory token. So go ahead and throw that in there. You're also going to have an outpost sector. So go ahead and throw a standard variable population die in there for your outpost sector. You're going to need a corruption on your house mat, so you can put that in there, and a couple of corvettes in just about every case, unless you're starting like with Xenorn with destroyers, for example. You might need something different, but you're pretty much always going to need a corvette fleet on your home sector and your outpost, so go ahead and put those in there. So even with those additional items, this still works extremely well. So we're really happy with this, and it comes as a full set of 4 in the 4 different colors. So it says Voidfall on the top. It's flat, and then it's got this lip around the side, so you can tell from every angle what color it is. But then some people don't have the Galactic box, so they don't have these trays to begin with. So a bunch of lids are no good. So we started producing now player trays as well. So these trays are the same color. Inside and outside, and a lip on the bottom too, so you can really see what color goes in here. And it works with the same lids. Empty right now, of course, but very clear. This is blue. And actually, it's got a little bit more room inside. It holds the same amount of stuff, but it's just a little bit roomier. So we were able to get away with that with some tricky engineering. So again, if you look at how much space these have versus they're a little bit cramped in there. They don't quite want to sit. So a little bit less jammed in there in this configuration, even with the extra components. Same thing on the other side. Put down a couple fleet tokens. This does work if you have the minis as well. You just you have to, you can't have the whole mini fully assembled, but it does hold all the pieces. And I would imagine, I don't have the retail version to check, but I would imagine you can probably get a couple of cardboard Corvette minis in here as well, but somebody would have to verify that for me. And this still fits on top. And then if you've got these, in order to get this out, this is a little bit flat, just push on one side and then lift up the other, kind of like in a seesaw motion. That's the way I would do that. And this lid goes on there. And again, could be pretty violent with it. It's not going anywhere. Again, I'm just holding it by the lid, and then it comes off super easy, and you can play your game. So, of course, that's a set of 4. I think they look pretty nice. They solve a problem. They hold up really well. And if you do have the Galactic box, these will fit in the exact same place where you would normally put these in your Galactic box. So those are player trays. And again, you can buy those with or without the trays, just the lids if that's something you're looking for. All right, next up is these much maligned house trays, and I think deservedly maligned. So there's 14 of these trays. I don't have them all filled right now, just the top one for demonstration purposes. They were a much bigger pain than I thought they would be, and I was expecting them to be a little bit of a pain. So each one contains all the house-specific components necessary for each house. And so there's 14 of these. Before the game arrived, or before I had mine, some people had started posting online templates to print out vinyl decals so that you could label these on the side. And I actually went ahead and did that before I even got the game. I downloaded one of those templates off of Board Game Geek and I modified it. So I made it look super spiffy to my own personal preferences and had it printed out, cut out all these vinyl decals. I was ready to go. And I never actually ended up labeling these because I was just so bummed with them. I knew I was going to replace them. So let me talk about solo or co-op play for a second, specifically, and maybe a little bit different for competitive. But if you want to play a solo game of Voidfall, you're supposed to pick your own house and also randomize the tech tableau with fallen houses. So to get those, let's just take this first one off, take off the lid. This is how everything is normally stored in each one of these 14. So you've got your house-specific focus cards. These slid around a little. It's okay. And then you've got your 2 techs. So each tech, you've got your basic version with 4 influence, basic without any influence, improved version, and then the origin card, which is your starting agenda that matches it. So you've got each of those. And then on the bottom, a fallen house card. And there is a slot for it. Like that's definitely where the fallen house card goes. And when I was first getting this game, I suggested putting it face down like this so that you could grab any of these and look at it from the bottom and see, okay, this is House of Storin, which I would still recommend if you're using these. But and I kept mine always alphabetically from top to bottom. So Astorin was always on the top, Xenor was on the bottom. In theory, I could get to the one I needed. But just to set up the tech tableau, I would have to open up one of these trays, get the fallen house card, put the text back, and the starting agendas, and the house-specific focus cards. Just set this down for a second. Now do that again for this one. So this would be Belatan. They don't specifically have any focus cards, but they do have the text and the agendas. Take those off, take the fallen house card, set that down. And then pretty soon you've got 14 of these things all scattered all over the place. And good luck keeping them all in order as you do that. And they're all over your table just to get the 14 of these fallen house cards. Now you take these, you shuffle them all up, you draw 4. Okay, those are the texts that you're going to use. Now you need to put all of these back in each of these bins where they came from. And for the 4 that you have, you now need to go back into each one of those and grab these tech cards, and then you're going to do some more randomization among that. It was such a pain to set this stuff up every time that even with the stickers, and even if I knew they're in alphabetical order, like just that task was pretty frustrating, and I didn't want to do it. So we've got a different system that takes up the same footprint as these in the galactic box. And if you don't have the galactic box, then you don't have to worry about the footprint, but these are still super helpful. So we've got 3 trays right here, and hopefully you can tell what each one of them is. So this is the tech tray. This has the text for each house, and there's this panel on the side. Let me take this lid off. And look at how they all stay lined up. I can shake it around. And now these are all sleeved. So this obviously works with sleeved cards. If you play unsleeved, they'll have a little bit of shake, but there's just naturally some space between these so you can get to the ones you need, and they're lined up with the houses. So I'm going to take a store in here. Sentries, deep space missiles. So here's these 6 cards in order, and just pop them in this top slot. And so for each house, it tells you, here's the name of the house, here's their text, deep space missiles, sentries, targeting, data refinery, down the list. Next are these little dots. This is the complexity level of each house. So the basic houses like Dunlort, Cortazar, Belatan are 1, Astorin is a 2, Novaris is a 4. And then there's 4 logos here in different colors just to help differentiate them. There is a pink X on some of them. The X represents the broken glass. So when you randomize these texts, you need to have at least 1 house with the broken glass symbol, but no more than 3. So this helps you keep track of which ones those are. The next is a yellow H. Those are on the 4 houses that have a non-standard home sector. So it's a reminder that you're going to need a certain tile when you set up the game. So that's going to be Astorin, Marquelos, Novaris, and Thegwin. The next is a green number. It's either a 1 or a 2. That is the number of house-specific focus cards that this house has. So as you saw before, Astorin has 2, Fenrax has 2, the basic houses have none. Some of them do have 1, such as Thegwin only has 1, Marquelos only has 1. And then the last icon here is a blue T, because a lot of people found this difficult to find in the books anywhere. It is in there. It's in the compendium somewhere, but it's kind of buried away. These are the 4 houses where you need the text for the tutorial. So you may know the game pretty well. You've played it a few times, but now you've got a friend coming over and you want to teach it, and you know how to teach the game, but you don't remember how to set up the tutorial, and you don't want to dig through all the books. It's just these 4 houses here. So I think that's pretty helpful too. So these are all the texts. And it's got this nice snap-on lid. I don't recommend shaking it, but if I hold it just by the lid, like, it'll hold just fine. So those are texts. In the agenda box, we've got each house listed here, and these are their starting agendas or their origin cards. So let's take Deep Space Missiles and Sentries and put it away for House Astorin. If you're playing with House Marquelos, of course, you get the extra starting agenda. So that goes in there too. And at the top, here are the Fallen House cards. They just go all together here. So we'll put Astorin somewhere in here. So now, when I want to play my solo game, here's the Fallen House cards. Shuffle them. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are my texts. And what do I have? Fenrax, Cheveus, Belatan, Nervo. Cheveus has a broken glass, so we've got at least 1 out of the 4, but no more than 3. Perfect. Those are my texts. Like, that was so much easier than taking all that other stuff apart. So I really like that. And let's put these back. So that's this tray. Again, it's not going anywhere. Everything stays super nice and neat. So I love that. And then last is the house-specific focus cards. And these are just all organized in alphabetical order. Here's Astorin, here's Fenrax, here's Cradmore, Marquelos, you get the idea. So according to this, you just look up your house, how many do you need, and you come grab it out of this 3rd container or tray. So these will all stack on top of each other in whatever order you want, and you can't see the vertical. It is a little bit taller, but it does not cause any lid lift. It fits in the exact same spot. Let's see if I can lay these down at all. Yeah. So when these are compressed, they're a little bit taller when you have the cards in them, especially when they're sleeved, but these are obviously empty, but you can see it's roughly the same profile. Let's go this way. And as I mentioned, it fits in the same spot in the Galactic box without any lid lift. So you can go on the Etsy page and see the pictures of that if you don't believe me. But I think these turned out great. And I think this is kind of neat too. The all the text on the side, this is 3D printed as well. So it's got a little bit of texture to it. I think it just came out really nice. That's super hard to do, I guess, on a 3D printer. I'm not a 3D printing person, but I'm told that's tough. So those are great. Super recommend those. Next up, and also lastly, I want to talk about tech and agenda trays. So let's talk about I'll talk about tech first. So here's the tech tableau that we've got, and for comparison, here is the tech tableau that comes with the Galactic box. Now, if you buy the retail version, you get no tray at all. So when you're playing the game, let's take some of these techs out. When you have to set up your tech tableau, and let's just pick a couple here. Okay, so here's your tech tableau, right? So just say for demonstration purposes, we've got the 2 basic versions of each tech in these sections here. The first, you randomize the improved techs. You put 4 of them on the Galactic board. The other 4 you put here. These will be available in cycle 3. So if you have the retail version, all this stuff just goes on the table, which really stinks because especially if you're playing competitive, you might want to look at some of the text as you're trying to strategize. You don't want to say like, hey, pass me central surveillance for a second, because then everybody knows what you're doing. But then the alternative is like get up and walk around the table, or ask somebody to like scoop up all the text and pass them to you so they can't see what you're looking at. It's really quite a pain. So if you have the Galactic box, you have this, which is nice. But these cards are sleeved, as you can see, which makes them a little slick. And this is a little bit bendy. So they stay in pretty decently, but they can from time to time slide out, especially if you tip it too much. So you do have to be cautious about how you're holding it and how it's bending. Overall, this is still pretty good. But it also takes up a decent amount of space too, as you can see on the table. This one takes up less space, which is super important for this game because it takes a lot of table space. So this version is much more rigid. It's not going to flex like that. And these are all, I mean, it's fine. They've got card bumps. So you push down on one side to get the cards out. But these also have finger holes both this way and this way. So whatever angle you want to grab it from, it works. So you can see it's about the same size as this, which makes a lot of sense. So it doesn't have this top portion or this left portion here. What you can do, if you like, if you're playing 2 or 3 players, you can take the cycle 2, or you put the normal cycle 2 improved text on the Galactic board. The cycle 3 ones you can actually keep up there in a 2 or 3 player game. In a 1 or 2 player game, I should say. 3 or 4 is a little bit different. I'll show you that in a second, but this holds just fine. Works, I don't know, really well with sleeved or unsleeved. But if you've got, say, a 3 or 4 player game, your starting tech, the second basic version of it, goes up here and takes up one of those slots so other people can have access to it. So you can't use those slots for holding your extra improved techs. In a 3-player game, in theory, you could just take these improved techs and put them here until you need them in cycle 3, and then your 3 basic techs are here. But in a 4-player game, in the event you're playing with 4 players and you've got these are all full with other basic techs, you can take the improved version of these and put it under the basic techs until you need them. And the card wells are deep enough that they will hold them just fine. And then you know right where they are when you need them. So I think that works pretty well. It's a slight improvement over this. Functionality wise, it's a big improvement table space wise. This is, I don't know, it matters in this game. And if you have the retail version and you don't have a tray at all, that really stinks. So I would definitely recommend this one. Now let's take a look at the agenda tray. So here is our agenda tray. Here is the agenda tray in the Galactic box. And again, if you have the retail box, you're just putting it on the table. And again, that is not ideal for the same reasons it's not ideal for the tech tray. You don't want to have to pass a couple of cards back and forth. You certainly don't want to pass the whole stack. That doesn't make sense. So it leaves you getting up and walking around the table to look at what agendas are available. Now, this agenda tray is a little bit larger than it needs to be because it doubles as a lid for one of the trays in the Galactic box. But this one takes up much less table space, and it's got much deeper card walls. They're deeper on the left than on the right. These are the stacks. This side will only ever hold 1 card. And then, of course, you take the cardboard piece and sits in the same location here and sits just fine. So I have not tried this, but some of the people who've left reviews who've bought a few of our items said if you have the Galactic box and you get our fleet tokens, you can empty out the fleet token trays that come with the Galactic box and put our fleet tokens in there. And then there's enough room left over between this storage well and the additional fleet token space that they got rid of the whole tray that this covers. And by doing that, you can make enough space then, once you get rid of that tray, that you can actually fit these trays in the Galactic box without lid lift. Again, I haven't tried that myself, but people have left reviews saying that, so that's nice to know. If you have the retail version only, storage space is probably on a premium. I'm assuming you're using a lot of baggies. So this is like a pretty nice well where you can fit population dice, or you can fit tokens. There's plenty of tokens for sure. If you want, you can fit different, I suppose, cards in here. There's plenty of pieces, void storms and harbingers and all that sort of stuff. You can put stuff in here, and it'll stay at least covered. And if you put something else on top of this, it won't go anywhere. But this is for the agenda offer. And so let's put some agenda cards in here. And again, this works sleeved or non-sleeved, but I like to sleeve this game. So there's always, of each agenda type, there's always 8 cards. 1 will be on the top, and the other 7 will be over here on the left. Now with this tray, with sleeved cards specifically, I've had some issue. It's holding a bouquet right now. I've had some issue with the top card sliding off of this when it gets passed. If it just catches it the right way, they can slide and mix, and that's kind of a pain. So our well is quite a bit deeper. So when I put 7 in there, there's no way in the world that's coming out on its own. There's plenty of space. And if your cards are not sleeved, you'll have even less of an issue. So those will stay just fine. Again, just like on the tech Tableau, we've got finger wells in this direction and in this direction, so you can grab whichever way is convenient for you. Work sleeved and non-sleeved, like I said. So that's the agenda offer tray and the technology Tableau tray. These two are sold together as a package. All right, and that's everything I wanted to say about our Etsy store and Voidfall. Those are all the pieces we have, and at the present time, we don't have any intention of making anything else. So if and when new content comes out for Voidfall, maybe we will. If there's customer requests, we'll definitely take a look at them. But we would like to move on to some other games now. Now, we also do have available a bundle. If you really want to go all in and you want all of this stuff, you can purchase it all for 10% off. So that's just a regular listing with all the other ones, but you can find more details about each of these in the individual listings. But if you just want everything and anything that we have for Voidfall, you can do it that way too, and it'll save you a little bit. Everything that ships to the US, everything domestic is free shipping as well. International is going to be extra. One other thing for all the subscribers of this channel, for the next 30 days from the release of this video, there will be a promo code. If you check out on our Etsy store, you can get an additional 10% off of whatever you purchase. That code is TFO subscriber, as in table for one subscriber. Again, it should be here on the screen. TFO subscriber. It's good for the next 30 days for 10% off as a promo code if you put that in. Just an appreciation to everyone there. The only thing I ask is please subscribe if you haven't yet. I would appreciate that. In the comments, I would love to know, are there other games you would like us to make components for? We try and put a lot of thought into this. We're not churning out a ton of components for a ton of games. We're not shotgunning it. We're trying to be really thoughtful and make improvements to really enhance gameplay and make it more fun. So all these pieces, you'll be seeing them again on my channel because I use them, and that's sort of our philosophy. We want to make things that we actually want to use and do use. So let us know what you're looking for, and we'll be happy to at least take a look. Other than that, this was, again, sort of an unusual video for this channel. I don't plan on doing a ton of these, but as we sort of come to a completion on a particular game, if I think it's worth highlighting, I'll do so. So that's what I've got this time. Thank you so much. Subscribe, leave a like, and leave some comments. That's the best part. So have a great week. I will see you next time.